Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
All right, dude.
This episode I'm really excited for because it's something that is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah,
Something
and it's just us.
It's just us. So basically, if you guys have been following what we're doing on Reptile Talk, we like to talk to people about different experiences they've had in the reptile hobby. But every 3 or 4 episodes or so, we're going to do a episode of just me and Jeremy, just checking in, talking about different topics and all these different stuff. But today, we're going to be talking about field herping.
Boom.
Which is one of my favorite things.
Hell yeah.
Because when I was little, I wasn't really allowed to have a lot of reptiles. So I could go see them outside, but not in my house.
Yep. And I was kind of the opposite. I didn't start going field herping until I had
later.
already been keeping a few things. Just because I didn't know anybody that knew any of the cool spots. So I didn't know any of the good spots because living in where I was in Springfield,
that's not.
There were no cool
herping.
spots. I had to go probably a good 20 or 30 minute drive away before I could do that.
Find things.
My mom wasn't going to drive me out to a mountain and be like, "Okay, have fun."
See, where I grew up, I was surrounded by woods. I was 20 minutes south of Boston, on a good day, no traffic. But the specific area of the neighborhood that I lived in was mostly wooded. So there was lots of woods behind my neighbor's property that was untouched, basically. Mm-hmm. And then down the end of my neighborhood, there was even more woods, and there was lots of rocks and things. And we would go to ponds locally. So when I was little, I spent all my time, if I wasn't reading books about reptiles, I was out looking for them. And during the wintertime, I just got depressed, really depressed.
Yep.
I have journals from first and second grade, and the whole August, September, October is just me being I found a salamander today. I found 20 salamanders today. I found a garter snake. This is cool. I fed my spider. And then as soon as it hit October, it was just I'm depressed.
Aww.
I have to be inside. I can't wait until springtime when I can find snakes again. And then March, April would come around. I'd be like, I found my first snake of the year and it's back to normal.
That's awesome. Every entry through the winter, I'm sad.
I'm sad. No snakes. That's pretty much what it was. I still have those journals from
really?
1996 and 95 and 94. And I was as soon as I started learning how to write, I was I'm just going to write about salamanders. And I would put pictures of salamanders in the front and stuff.
That's awesome.
That's all I cared about because I couldn't have all the things that I wanted.
Yeah. And now look at you.
And now look at me. And when I was younger, any of my friends, if they wanted to do other things, they'd be like, let's play N64. I'd be like, okay, let's do that for 20 minutes. And then let's go catch snakes because I can only sit down in one spot for so long.
Yep.
And then I need to do something.
Yep.
Or
I hear you.
Lose my mind.
Yes, I totally hear you. Oh my gosh. So what was your earliest remembered field herping experience or herping experience?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know because I got pictures of me when I was probably 4 years old, catching garter snakes in my yard.
Damn.
But when I was that young, I was super averse to one, getting bit, which I still don't like getting bit, but I was just paranoid about it. And then 2, getting musked on because I would always get garter snake musk all over my hands when I would catch the snakes and stuff. So I would actually wear cotton, the not super thick winter gloves, but the cloth ones. I would wear those during the summertime so that if I found garter snakes, I could pick them up and they would musk on the gloves and I could take the gloves off and then go wash my hands once and not reek of musk. So if you look at any pictures of me when I was little from the summertime, I was almost always wearing gloves. And people would be they would ask my mom, they'd be like, why is he wearing gloves? It's the summertime. And she'd be like, he catches snakes. don't ask about it. He's going to talk to your ear off about reptiles. If you don't want to have a 30-minute conversation about reptiles with this kid, don't ask him.
Aw.
But like
I
I've got
feel that, though.
I got a bunch of pictures of me from when I was a kid in the summertime, and I would just have cloth gloves on because I knew if I would go on a walk someplace, if I was going into the woods, I was going to find a snake and I'm going to pick it up, and I had to like inspect it and look at it and just like interact with it. Yeah. So I was just like always about catching snakes. So I don't even have like an earliest memory because it's always been such a part of me and the things that I was into. But like, do you have like a moment where you like found your first snake and it was like that's what caught it? Or
I don't remember, and I think a big part of it was like I said, when I was young, I didn't have the opportunity to go field herping because I just didn't know anybody, and it wasn't even a thing that really popped up on my radar. I do remember being probably like 13 or 14, and I had gotten connected with this dude. His name was Shaquem, and he was all about field herping, and he knew the spots in the local area. So I had like asked my mom, hey, this dude Shaquem, blah, 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 he knows the spot, and he was a decent bit older than me, so like my folks were a little apprehensive, but like he had come over and like met my folks and whatever, and they're like, okay, cool, like he seems like a cool dude, whatever. And we went out to this spot in Holyoke, Mass. I mean, there's this really specific spot that used to have a black racer den. And I mean, I remember going there for the first time, and like you're basically going to this old abandoned ski resort that existed on the mountainside, and now it's like owned by the Boys and Girls Club, but they don't do anything with it. So it's still all just abandoned, whatever. But I remember walking up the road to even get to that point. I'm like seeing garter snakes and stuff. And I'm like, where are we? Because this is like a magical place right now. Like I'm so geeked out about this. And I remember as soon as we got to the spot, they had this old like wave pool. So it was like during the winter, it was like ski resort space. And like during the summer, they had all these pools and like they had a big, super big wave pool and stuff. Cool. It was really awesome. And along the side of the wave pool, there's like these little gutters that would essentially, like as the water would come out, would just go right back down into it. And that was all covered in like leaves and dirt and like old pieces of wood that are just blown in there. So I remember going through that with him, and immediately it was like, yellow spotted salamanders. And I was like, what is that? What is that? Because before that I had seen like Jeffersons and like redbacks and stuff, and they're like, those are cool. This was the first time I had seen like a big ass salamander. I was like, what is that? And then I remember walking down into the pool, because when it rains, all the water just collects there. And all the toad tadpoles and everything that were there. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. The only real experience I had before then was like growing up, going to my uncle's house. He lived in Munson, Mass. So and they had a decent bit of land. I remember my cousin Renee and I would like go. Behind their property was one of the local high schools, and there were like some random tributaries and stuff in the back, and you could find salamanders along that. So I remember like doing that, but never on this scale. Where it was just like, here's 10,000 toad tadpoles. And you're like geeking out, and it's like, instead of finding one green frog, here's like 50. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. So we look at the wave pool, whatever, it's all cool. Then we walk up a little ways, and you get to this grassy area, and then there's a bunch of buildings, but there's all these flat pieces of plywood.
Oh, that's where the snakes are.
Like 8x4 sheets or whatever. And I remember him telling me, he's like, all right, when I say go, you got to just get ready to grab things. And I'm like, yeah, okay, dude, sure. He lifted up this 8x4 sheet, and I kid you not, there had to be like 15 racers under it.
Wow.
And I was like, trying to grab them. They're all freaking out, biting me. I was like, oh my God. This really is a magical place right now. So I used to geek whenever he would hit me up and be like, hey, do you want to go field herping?
We're doing it.
I'd be like,
today's the day.
Yes, so want to go. And, I remember one time going out there with him, finding a copperhead. in that same racer den area, and I was like, oh my god, I was so geeked. It was the first time I had found a venomous snake in the wild. So I was like, that's the coolest freaking thing ever.
New England is not a great place if you want to see venomous snakes.
No, it's not. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Freaking out about that. Then like there's so much of that landscape to navigate and find. Like there's all these little cool den spaces for different snakes and stuff along the mountainside. Like we had seen a couple black rats there.
That's cool.
There's supposedly a timber den if you were to go before you get to that part.
Yeah. Nowhere up there. There's not up there.
Yeah. Before you get to that part, there's a secret road that you have to navigate to get to, and if you make it, because it's actually quite high up a very steep road. So if you make it up this road, there's a spot where it flattens out, and then it's just all rocks. It's like cool rattlesnake habitat. But I've never found one. I never ever found one at all anywhere out there. And I had heard from multiple people, oh yeah, we've seen them up there and blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, this could be really cool to go find them up there. Disappointed every time. And it's like, it would just be real cool to find one.
It would be really cool.
But yeah, that was like the go-to place that was close to home. Like it's like 25-30 minutes away from where I lived, so it was easy to get to. And there was another area in Holyoke as well that had black rats like everywhere. It was one of the few spaces where you could find them, and they're all like radio tagged and stuff for study, so you don't really mess with them all that much. But you hardly ever saw them on that mountain. You didn't see like one or two. When you got to this other place, they were like no more racers, and it was all black rats, and you're like, damn,
that's cool.
This is really cool. And I remember this is probably the worst field herping experience I ever had, because I was really young.
Stinging insects?
Huh?
Does it have to do with stinging?
No, it does not. No, nothing flying that shouldn't be flying, or stinging that shouldn't be stinging. No, so my buddy found like a massive black rat. Had to be like 6.5, 7 foot. And so he grabs it because he's like, oh my God, I've never seen one this big, you know. So he's got it, and it musks, and it like whatever oozes shot right into his mouth. And he's like he's literally like
disgusting.
Like drops the snake, whatever. I'm dying laughing, right? So he's like, it's not funny, like horrible. I'm dying. I'm like, this is absolutely hilarious.
That's terrible.
So
I can't even imagine.
Funny. Dude, so freaking funny. So then I find another black rat, and I went to go grab it, and I had chased it to the bottom of a tree trunk, and then it like disappeared into this little rodent burrow or whatever. But I'm like on my hands and knees at this point, and he's like, dude, don't move. And I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, there's a copperhead right by your foot. And I'm like, how did I miss that? Like, there was no crazy amount of leaf litter. Like, I should have seen the orange snake.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I knew I had tunnel vision, but to totally miss a copperhead.
Over that, yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit. He's like, don't move. I'm going to grab a stick, and I'll kind of move it out of the way so that you can get away. And I'm like, all right. So a couple minutes goes by, and I'm like, it shouldn't be this fucking hard to find a stick. What the hell's going on? But I can't also move to like turn around. Somebody's like staring at the ass end of this tree, just like, well, hope I don't die. You know, like, I don't know what's gonna happen to me right now.
You don't die from a copperhead.
Well, I didn't know that at that time. I was like, I just know they're here and they're venomous. I'm young.
Yeah.
And so like 5 minutes or more had to have gone by, and I'm like, I start yelling for him. I'm like, dude, Like, did you like get eaten by something while we're out here? Like, what did that black rat come and chase you down? You know,
And caught him.
Yeah, like what the hell? And then he starts dying laughing, and I'm like, what the fuck is so funny? I might be
In danger.
in danger right now. And he's like, dude, there's no fucking copperhead by your feet. And I was like, huh? He's like, I just don't like getting laughed at when I'm fucking gagging on musk. And I was like, are you serious right now? He's like, yeah, so I have a bunch of photos of you like staring at this tree doing absolutely nothing. I'm like, I fucking hate you right now.
That's what we call karma, man.
Dude, I was not a fan of that whatsoever, dude.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
that was probably like one of the worst experiences I had, because I'm over here like heart's like
pounding,
and I'm like, oh, this could end poorly. You know, I don't know anything of what could possibly happen. You know, yeah, all because he was mad that I laughed at him.
Hey, man,
for getting musk in his face.
That's what you get,
dude. Come on.
Oh.
So the only other really negative experience I think I've ever had, because unfortunately I've never really had the ability to travel to field herp.
Mm-hmm. If I travel
outside of New England,
that's the only reason I'm traveling.
I would usually, I would usually try to do that, because like when I travel for music and stuff, if I can get an extra day,
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to do it. And it usually just never pans out because my schedule is so jam packed whenever I'm somewhere. I don't really get to travel anywhere for vacation / fun. It's usually work, you know. So trying to get an extra day usually ends up becoming like, hey, can you come do this gig? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna say no to money.
Yep.
You know, as much as I want to go find some snakes, that's money. So like I would love the next time I get to go to Cali to field herp in Cali, because I think that would be really cool. But anyway, so the only other really negative field herping experience I ever had was back on I was with a really good friend of mine, and we were in the area that I had found, I don't know how many racers over the years. This is when I was still like getting ready to graduate high school, so like 18, 19. Mm-hmm. While we're out there, I was like, man, I keep seeing these people that are like watching us. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me what it was, because the whole area, there's like hiking trails and stuff, so there's like people that are around there. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like we're in this secluded, you shouldn't be here area. But these people were just like watching us so intently, and I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm just not feeling this. Like I don't understand why they're here. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let's just fucking go, dude. You know, because I don't know what this is. So we're like getting ready to walk down back to where that racer den area is, and we get stopped. And it turns out it was like a wildlife researcher working for like Mass Fish and Wildlife or whatever. And they're like, "What are you guys doing here?" And it's like, "Oh, you know, we're looking for snakes. Like, you know, we're just out here." We're just like, "Well, you know, you guys shouldn't be out here. There's endangered animals here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm well aware. You know, we're not here to mess with any of the wildlife. We're just like, we just like reptiles and amphibians. Like, we're just checking out cool shit." You know, and we didn't have snake hooks or anything like that, you know. So the dude was like interrogating us hard. Why are you here? Blah, blah, blah. And unbeknownst to me, he was taking our photos. He had like this really slim, old school camera, like maybe one of the first digital cameras that could have ever existed. But it was so slim, he had just kind of had it in his hand. So I never saw him like pressing a button or doing anything like that. And I got to a point where I was like, we went our separate ways, and I was like, dude, I don't fucking understand. I was like, but there's a part, if we climb up this part of the ski resort, there's a place that generally you can find more racers and stuff. So I was like, let's just go over there, you know, to hell with these people. They followed us. And they were like on us. And I got so frustrated, I was getting to the point where it was like, oh, found a racer. If you want to see it, take a picture, you know, whatever. And I just got so frustrated. I was like, you know what, dude, fuck this. Like, let's just go. Because I don't need a fucking babysitter, you know. So we leave, and maybe like a week and a half or so later, I got a message from Kevin, and he was like, "What the hell were you doing?" And I was like, "Field herping. I've been going there for I don't know how many years. Why?" And he's like, "One of their fucking researchers got photos of you. They're circulating your photos saying that you're a potential poacher." And I was like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, they got your fucking photos. Whoever you were there with had snake bags. What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "No, my buddy used to carry a bunch of lanyards. It was just like his thing. He just would always have lanyards with him." And the photo was so blurry. They were saying it. Yeah, they were saying that they were snake bags. And I'm like, when have you ever seen like neon green, neon red snake bags? Like,
dumb.
Like I was just like, what? Are you kidding? And he was like, he's like, I'm vouching for you because like I know you, but you need to not go back there like for the rest of the season or whatever. And I was like, I was mortified because I was like, are you kidding? Like I already have reptile. What the hell am I going to do with a black racer? Like I don't want any of that stuff. So I was like, I don't want to go out for like the rest of the year. And then I think like another year went by and like I didn't go field herping at all. And it totally turned me off to it because I was like, really? And then when I finally did decide to go back to that area, there was a big development that had happened really close to that area and you couldn't find shit. It was ridiculous. Like the same boards that I remember finding 15, 20 racers at a time, if I found one racer in 6 hours, it was a miracle. And I was like, this is horrible. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's field herping for me has had its ups and downs. I absolutely love getting to do it. But damn, that was like such a big damper for me doing it. Was like, I'm good.
The spots where I would go field herping when I was a kid now have turned into apartment complexes. So there's like there's nothing there anymore. But I literally used to go out every day during the summertime and just like sometimes I would bring a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket and just like fill it up with the snakes that I found and just like at the end of the day before I would head home, just like let them all go in one spot because it was like maybe a quarter of a square mile area but it was like heavy concentration of snakes. Like I would see everything out there. I'd see eastern milk snakes, ringneck snakes, garter snakes, ribbon snakes, water snakes, all that stuff, all out there. And I would just go out there and just try to see as much as I could and do a lot of rock flipping and finding hornets and wasps and all this crap. That
all the other fun
all the
stuff.
things I didn't want to see. And there was like even a couple times where I saw bobcats out there. And it was like, it wasn't like way out in the woods. It was really close to an industrial park. And like you could very easily be in the center of town in under 5 minutes drive from where I was. So it was just so mind-blowing to me that there was all of these animals, all these really amazing things, like 5 minutes away from lots of people. Granted, there wasn't ever a lot of people in the industrial park, like outside of the workday, but like still, it was pretty close proximity to people. And I just would, I even posted some videos on my old YouTube channel of me going out there and field herping and all the stuff that I would see. There was one area that had like a shingle pile. So I would always save that for last because I always knew there was going to be snakes there. Even on overcast days, you'd find snakes there. But there was like a big field and there was lots of rock piles in the areas. And if you just went over to those rock piles and started flipping stuff, you'd see dark garter snakes, you'd see light colored ones, you'd see ringneck snakes, milk snakes, and in New England, there's not like a whole ton of different species that you can find in general. And all the venomous snakes are protected. They're all endangered throughout all of New England. So they didn't really have to worry about seeing venomous snakes in particular. So I would just go out there and just like catch all these different snakes. And every now and again, you'd see a black racer. And that was like super special when I would find one. And just going all to those different spots. And then there was a pond locally that I would go to and you'd see water snakes there. There was like a bunch of times where I would go out in the spring and at least probably 3 or 4 times where I saw northern water snakes like courting and breeding like right next to the beach where all these people were hanging out. And it's like the beach was where everyone would hang out, and then the other side of the beach they had like a little swampy area, and like it was just me and then other weird kids that would go over there. But there was like frogs in there. I'd see newts, I saw the water snakes. And I remember one time there was like a lot of people there, and I caught this like 4.5 foot, almost 5 foot long northern water snake, and it was like going crazy and like striking at me, and I was just like holding it and all this stuff, and I was going to carry it from one side of the swamp area over to the other to show my mom. And one of the wildlife officers came over and was like, "Son, you gotta stop harassing the wildlife." And I was like, "No, it's like I'm not harassing it. I'm just like, look at this thing, it's amazing." And I was like, there was a group of people that came over, and I was teaching them about it, and I was like, "Look, it's not venomous. You think it's a cottonmouth. It's not. It's a harmless water snake. Leave them alone if you see them." And the wildlife officer was like, "You gotta put it back right now, or we're gonna kick you out." And I was like, "Oh, come on, man. I'm actually doing like good work here. I'm teaching these people." Right. And so I let it go. But it was huge, and like people were like watching it swim back off into the swamp, and I was like, "Man, that is just so cool." And then when I found the breeding water snakes, I was just sitting there just watching them like from the edge of the water, and the male's like sitting and courting and like nudging the female, and they're going back and forth in this little area. And then like some other kids came over, and like a couple of those kids were actually like interested, and so we're all just like watching them. And then some kids who were not interested, who thought we were weird, came over and like stomped all over the area where they were in and scared them away, and I was like so bummed. And it's just like such a pain because those wildlife officers are just riding around their horses thinking they're freaking cool. And it's like, you could be teaching people about these awesome animals that are right here, right next to all these people that are swimming and fishing right over on the other side. And it's like, well, those guys say they care, but they don't. I feel like most of them don't really care. They care about stuff that fits into their agenda, and they don't care about anything else, which is like such a bummer. Because like they've got cool, green frogs there. They got bullfrogs breeding. They've got spotted salamanders all there. All these things that you could be teaching the public about, and all they care about is their horse. And it's like, that's so stupid. Yeah. So stupid. It's a wasted opportunity because
100%.
If people get the chance to see those other cooler animals, they might have an appreciation for them. The first time you see a big like 5-inch spotted salamander, dude, I don't care who you are, that's freaking awesome. That's just like, you're like, whoa, that thing is bigger than every other salamander I've ever seen. Like,
like those live here?
Those are wild. Yeah, the first time that I found them, I was like, whoa, that looks like a weird spotted or like a weird tiger salamander. That is that? And then look it up. Oh, those are native. And the first couple ones that I found were small. They were probably only like 3 or 4 inches long. But then I found like a 5 or 6 inch one. I was like, oh my god, this thing's amazing. That's so cool.
Yes.
And seeing, just going out, and for me, being able to go places and just like find wild reptiles was like the most mind-blowing thing to me, because like throughout New England, most of the wintertime, it's too cold to think that anything stays alive throughout all our winter months. And then just recently I've been noticing that the spotted turtles are out, or not spotted, the painted turtles are out. And those guys are, since they're so dark colored, they can come out really early before a lot of the other species of animals that would be out, for reptiles at least. So it's always interesting to me to see those like first signs of spring and summer starting to roll around, and seeing the painted turtles out, and seeing snapping turtles and garter snakes and black racers. I remember there was a time where I went out field herping, and it was cold enough where I needed a sweatshirt and like a light jacket because I was cold. So usually I try and gauge it. If I'm comfortable outside in a t-shirt, then the reptiles will be comfortable. And that one day, I wasn't really expecting to see snakes. I was just like hoping to see like maybe some toads or something like that. But I was hiking around in this area that was like pretty heavily wooded, and all of a sudden I see a black racer's face poke out from these rocks. Oof. And it was big, like really big. And I'm like, holy crap. And I was with my friend Tyler. I was like, dude, stop, right where you were at. I got to try and catch that racer. And so I'm like, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, and I just book it as fast as I can get up to this rock, because it's a big pile of rocks, and as soon as it's in there, you're not getting it out. It's just not happening. So I like race up there, and it hit, instead of like just backing into the rocks, it had come out and then came back around to try and go into a different hole.
Oh man.
And so I got it right as it was out, and it had only maybe like a quarter of its body into the rock. So I like got it, and I'm holding on to it, and I'm like not letting it go further in there.
Yeah.
And then after a minute of it realizing that it's not going to be able to go into the rocks, it like springs right back out, and the thing is like easily 5 feet long.
Damn.
And I'm like just like trying to avoid getting bit, and because I wasn't really expecting to see anything that day, and so I'm just like, I got it by the tail, and I'm like letting it kind of tire itself out a little bit, and after a minute of it like just striking at me, I'm like just trying to keep it at an arm's length, and I've got it like right by the vent, right by the cloaca,
Yeah.
and this thing swings up and bites me right in the chest, and I'm like, oh crap. Like I didn't think it was long enough to actually bite me from where it was at. So after that, like it bit me and then let go, and I'm like, okay, Tyler, grab a stick. And so we let it kind of tire down for a minute, and then after that I like just like gently pick it up, and this thing is like puffing its mouth open, and it's just like so pissed off at me.
It's so happy to see you.
Oh my God, dude, it was so cool though, and just getting a chance to like just see that animal. It was cold. It was like its body wasn't that cold, but it was cold out to me. So like just the fact that this animal's out and hunting and looking for food already so early in the year, that like blew me away. And it had like healed broken ribs and all this stuff on its sides where you can see this animal had been through war and back, and just getting to see that was so fucking cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And that, man, every time I see a black racer, it's just special to me because the places where I field herped when I was a kid, I didn't have black racers there. So it was like very rare that you would ever, ever, ever see a black racer. So every time I see one of those, I'm like, I get all geeked out. I'm like, yeah, those things are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, that's how I felt with black rats. Like the first time. Oh,
I've never found live ones.
The first time I found at first, when you start to see them from a distance, you're like, oh, it's a racer. At least for where I was, because the racers were way more common.
Yep.
So I would be like, oh man, racer, and I would get a little bit closer, and I'd be like, that's not a racer. That's another big black snake, and I don't understand what it is. And I'm like, oh, black rat snake, but they're not supposed to be very common. Why are you here? But yeah, the first time I found a black rat, I was like, dude,
yes,
that thing's freaking awesome. And even though my buddy got mussed in the face, that big like 6.5, 7 foot black rat, like that was just holy shit.
Yeah,
like so cool, so freaking cool. Yeah, if you had told me that day that I was going to walk out and find a massive black rat snake, I'd be like, no, I'll probably find some 3, 4 footers, whatever, because that's what we were so used to seeing. So to find something that was significantly larger was just like, damn, that snake's been through some times. Like,
yeah, and like there was this camp that was near me when I was growing up, and the school that I went to would do a yearly hike where right at the end of the school year, right as the weather's starting to get good, they would take all the students who are like in grades 4, 5, and 6, and they would take them and walk them out to this campground. And they had a big pond there, and just going down there and getting to see that pond, I was like, oh man, there's got to be turtles and snakes around here. I know there's got to be stuff. And so I saw a good-sized water snake there, like immediately, like one of the first times I went down there, and I was like, okay, we got to go here. So I went back that day and told my mom, I was like, look, there's a campground like right near us. We have to go there. They got a big pond. They've got cabins where we can go to, and we have to go there. And so we spoke to the woman who runs the booking, and it's like a really popular campground, so they don't always have availability in like the full-size cabins because it's so like it's such a commonly used place. But what I did is I was doing educational programs at the time, and I was like, hey, you guys have smaller cabins that aren't always occupied. If we do a program or a couple programs throughout the summer for your campers, will you let us rent a couple nights? Because we're close enough where we can drive there for a night, have, do a charcoal grill, cook, and then and the next day or at the end of the weekend we'll leave. And they were like, yeah, that's awesome. So when I was like 12, what age are you when you're in 6th grade? 10, 11, 12, right around
Something
there?
like there, yeah.
I was going out and doing programs for them, and then I'd spend the rest of the day field herping out there.
That's awesome.
And so they had so many things, and they have they have a designated swimming area that's all roped off, and they dredge it, so there's no like leaves or anything in there, and it's cool, and all the campers come down there. They have a lifeguard on duty. But they have this water snake, this northern water snake, that kind of makes his way around that side of the pond at like later on in the day,
Mhm.
and they call him 5 o'clock Charlie, and it's like this. It's probably a female. This massive female northern water snake that just like will come from the edge of the swimming area, swim right across. She'll hang out by the dock for a couple minutes because there's like all these sunfish that hang out there, and she'll hang out there for a minute. If there's nothing to eat, cruises right along to the other side and just keeps on moving.
Damn.
And so the campers would always, like, when they knew that I was a snake guy, they'd be like, you got to go see 5 o'clock Charlie. You got to see 5 o'clock Charlie. So I would go down there later in the day, and there was a couple times where I would catch her, and I would just, like, pick her up and, like, show the kids, and, like, she'd strike at me and everything. And then she'd calm down after a minute. I'd be like, look at this. This thing's amazing. Like, if you see her, don't mess with her, but just know that she's not going to hurt you, and she's not going to scare you or whatever, you guys. So it's so cool to have grown up around that campground and see the different waves of kids that come through and how they all kind of get to know that snake and then see her as she's coming through. And it's just so cool. And I stay in contact with the woman who runs the campground, and she's got a wood pile over by where she does, like for the campers, if they want to come up, they could buy wood, they could buy cords of wood and stuff. But they always have tarps over them. So whenever I would come out and visit, I'd be like, have you guys checked the tarps recently? And she'd be like, nope, go for it. And so I go out there and I find ringneck snakes and milk snakes and garter snakes. And she's always just like so excited to see me because she knew me from when I was so young. And then getting the kids involved with some of the animals that you can find around the campground and stuff, and getting so people didn't want to hurt them or they weren't afraid of them and stuff. And that was just always something that really stuck with me. It wasn't like crazy field herping, but it was like getting to teach the kids. And especially when I was younger, I was one of those kids where I would just go out and I would just want to see stuff. So people would tell me about, I saw a snapping turtle over on this side of the pond over here. You got to go check over there. Or I saw water snakes over near this cabin. You got to go look over there. And so, just getting that kind of reputation as the snake kid, I would always, whenever people saw or heard anything, they would always reach out to me. And even recently, probably like 2 years ago, the woman who runs that campground texted me. She called my mom and was like, we need Rob's number. We found something weird, and we know that he's going to be the only person who's going to know, that we know. So, because their wildlife officers don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I get a text. She's like, hey, it's the person from the campground. We found this weird thing. I've never seen anything like this before. Can you tell me what it is? And I'm like, yeah, just shoot me over a picture if you got, even if it's like a kind of a, not a clear picture. If you can get some sort of a picture to me, I can probably ID it. And she sends me this picture, and I just text her ... back. And then I'm like, send me another picture. She sends me another picture. And it's a marbled salamander, which in New England is like super, super rare.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a marbled salamander. Holy crap. That's so awesome. That's so cool. And she's like, it's not someone's pet. And I'm like, no. They're just like a really, really unusual salamander that you don't see that often. And like this marbled salamanders don't get very big. They only get like maybe 4 inches or so. They're all black. They're like a little chubby salamander. And they've got white marks that go down their back. And I've only found a handful of them ever in my life. Of all the places that I've gone field herping in New England, I've only found a handful of them. Yeah. And for her to find that one, I was like, that's so awesome. I did not know that you could find them there. And I was so geeked out. And I was like, you have to report it to Fish and Wildlife. You got to let them know that you have them there. If they can document that they're out there, they can help you protect that land so that if there's any sort of, they want to start building out there or they want to start doing this stuff, since they are rare and protected in most of New England, you can use that to your advantage and let them know that you can't develop further out here. These are, rare salamanders. And that was just like something that super duper geeked me out. And one of the other times where I actually found a marbled salamander, I was out looking for other types of snakes out, and I was in a spot where I was like at pretty decent elevation, so I was not expecting to see salamanders besides your redbacks. So I flip over this rock, and this little pudgy marbled salamander is sitting right there, and I'm like, holy crap. And the person who was with me was like, it's a salamander. What are you getting? And I was like, no. It's a special salamander. It's really, really special. I never found one. So I'm taking like all these pictures and I'm like trying to like look on a map and see exactly the spot where I'm at. And I'm like, okay, I have to know exactly the spot where I'm at so I can report this so that when I try to tell them where I found it, I can show them exactly the spot because I don't know if they were found in that area. And so I call the New England Herp Society because all the guys in there will know. They're pretty good at their distribution maps and knowing where things are found and where they're not found. And so I talked to one of the guys through there, Mr. Martinez, and he's like, wait, you found a marbled? That doesn't make sense. Why you would find that? That's not where they're usually found. And I'm like, I know that's not where they're usually found. So like, what can we do? So I call the Mass Fishing Game. I speak to one of their people over there, and I'm like trying to give them as detailed information as I possibly can. And they're like, okay, we'll be in contact with you guys. And if you see anything else, let us know. And I'm like, absolutely. If I find any more, I'll let you know. And so I'm talking to the guys at the Herp Society, and they're working with Mass Fishing Game. And the next spring, because this was like probably 8 years ago or 9 years ago, maybe right around there. But I'm talking to the guys at the Herp Society, and I just like let them know the exact area where I found him. He's like, okay, I'm going to do a survey, take a look out there, see what I can do. And the next spring, he messages me, and he's like, Rob, do you remember that spotted salamander, the marbled salamander that you found out in that spot? And I was like, yeah, like, I wish I'd found more, but I didn't find any more. He's like, I just wanted to let you know that during the springtime, we go out and we do surveys on salamander larvae, and we go and scoop in the wetlands areas and try and find the larvae, identify them, and then see how the populations of these salamanders are doing. And the spot where you had reported to us where that marbled salamander was, we found marbled salamander larvae there, and they haven't been documented in that area since 1972. And I was like, are you kidding me right now?
That's so dope.
And I was like, he's like, we found not just like a few, we found a decent amount. That means that there's a population of marbled salamanders out there, and we would have never known if you hadn't let us know. And I was like, that's so fucking cool. That's so awesome. And so I was just like super, super geeked out about that. And so I think they've done more surveys there since then, and the population is still doing okay there. As there's more pollution and more people and all this stuff, populations are inevitably starting to dwindle, and it's really sad for these animals, but they still have that population of those salamanders out there. And I was like super geeked out about that, because that's the first time they'd been seen there in like 40 or 50 years of those salamanders being found there. And I was just like super geeked out about that.
That's so dope.
So cool. So cool.
Damn.
That's something that gets me super geeked out, because I'm just like,
yeah,
to be a part of that. Even like, I didn't go do that research. Those guys, like New England Herp Societies, they did that. They found that, and they put that work in. But just to have like a little hand in that was
you
that
put
was cool.
the blip on the radar, dude.
That's super
so
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's so freaking awesome.
But I just remember, like, when I was a kid and my family would go down to Florida, I don't care about amusement parks or roller coasters or stuff like that. Like, Gatorland was the reason why I wanted to go on vacation to Florida. And then if we did anything else that was related to reptiles, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't really care about going to Disney or Universal or Epcot or any of that stuff. Like, none of that stuff really caught my interest. So it was like when we go back to the hotel, and I would go behind the hotel and look for snakes, or I'd catch anoles, or go, look for anything. Like, it's seeing alligators on the sides of the road while we're driving. That was the stuff that really got me excited when I was a kid. And I would go, and like, when I got to be a little bit older, when I was about 17, I went on vacation with my best friend, who's like known me since I was a little kid. And we went to his grandmother's place. We stayed there for a month, and she lived like in Florida. A lot of the places, they have neighborhoods, but then all their electricity is not like all our electrical lines are right by the roads in New England. And then in Florida, they have canals that go in between the neighborhoods, and then the electrical lines go down there. And so when we were down there, after the first like week of sightseeing in an area, you're like, okay, I think I've seen most of the things. And then the rest of the time, me and him would just go field herping. So we would just like ride our bikes around and look for stuff. So we would find like black racers. We found soft shell turtles. There was a spot we went to where we saw manatees, and I caught a brown water snake there. And like, that was the highlight. Like, seeing the manatees was cool. That was really cool.
Yep.
But catching a brown water snake was like, because like I saw it and it was kind of in the muck, in the mud, and I was like, I don't know if that's a cottonmouth or not. I don't know if I should grab this thing right now. And then I'm looking around.
But I'm doing it.
And then I see its head pop up, and I'm like, oh, not a cottonmouth. Boom. And I just grabbed it and pulled it right out. And it was
That's awesome.
maybe like 18 or 24 inches, so like 2 foot long. Not giant, but like
Yeah.
still a good size. It was thick. It was really, really thick. And one of the crazy, dude, when we were down there, like Florida has lots of fire ants everywhere.
Oof, yes.
And when we had first gone down there, the weekend before we got there, my friend's grandmother was like, "Oh, I just saw a softshell turtle laying eggs at the edge of our property." Or like maybe a couple weeks before we got there. And she's like, they should be hatching out like as soon as you guys are here. Like while you guys are here, they should hatch out. So we'd go out, every couple days and just like check the little area. And I didn't realize that there was fire ants there. And one day I just see the fire ant nest going crazy. And I'm looking like, what the hell is going on over here? And the turtles had started hatching out. But the fire ants started eating the turtles. And by the time that I had come out there, they had literally cleaned one of the shells like completely out. So it was just the back of the shell. There was like no skeleton left there, or not just the back of the shell. Because the babies are so small, the ants had eaten everything. And I was like, holy crap, but that shell's really cool. So like I brought it and I showed them and I was like, look at this. You can see all the little ribs in there. You can see the spine of the baby turtle and everything. And it's just like so mind blowing. Like nature doesn't care, and it doesn't care if you're a baby. It's gonna nature's nature, man. It's those ants got to eat, and it was true. It was crazy.
Did any of those babies survive?
Yeah. There was some that made it out, and you could see with the dirt as they had gone down the embankment into the little ditch area with all the water and everything. Yeah, and the canal. Sorry, not ditch, canal. You could see where they had got a few of them had gotten out, but. Some of them did get killed by those fire ants. And we were going out and catching garter snakes, and we were looking around and we saw black racers. It was so crazy because one day we like flipped a board and there was maybe a 2 or 3 foot black racer under there. But as soon as we flipped it over, it like arched the front part of its body up off the ground like a cobra and like was striking at us repeatedly. And like most snakes, when you see them in the wild, they don't like come towards you. They usually are like, whoop, oh, that's a big thing. And they like take off. Yeah. And this thing like struck at us like 2 or 3 times before it actually backed down. And like I was sitting there and I was like, it's not venomous. Like I'm just watching it and like waving my hand a little bit. And I heard I was like, this thing is not afraid of us at all.
That's amazing.
And it was not. There was like not an ounce of fear in that thing. It was just like, don't come near me. Don't do it. It's shaking its tail going crazy. And I was just like super geeked out about that.
Sheesh.
I was super pumped. So cool.
That's dope.
Yeah. But it's like so different because every place that you go, there's different things that you're expecting to see. And like field herping is always, since I was little, it was always just like a part of what I did. So anywhere I went, it didn't matter if it was, Connecticut or to visit my family or whether we went to Florida to go on vacation. I was always looking for something. So like a couple of years ago, my mom was like, let's go to Arizona because she moved to Arizona for a couple of years to work at like a year and a half to work at a hospital to help their blood bank kind of run more efficiently and everything. And so when she moved back, she's like, you have to come to Arizona. You're going to love it there. There's so many different things that you can see. And I was like, yep, that's always been on my like dream list since I was a kid. I don't know what it is about Arizona, but when I would read books about the wildlife that they had there, or like look at they would do like underground homes where they would like carve out homes out of the stone in
that's dope.
That like always just fascinated me. So since I was a little kid, I always wanted to visit Arizona, and I always said when I was younger that I wanted to live in Arizona because I was just like so fascinated with everything about it. And so when my mom was like, we're gonna take a trip to Arizona, just me and you, and I was like, yep, I'm 100% down. So this was only a couple of years ago, so I was like, yep, I need to go and I need to find some wildlife. I need to see things. So every minute of the day that she didn't have something planned that she wanted to do, I was like, I'm going to go out over there where it looks like there's nothing, and I'm going to go look for stuff. And I brought my friends gave me a blacklight flashlight, so I was out looking for scorpions. I had a regular flashlight, so I'm out looking for snakes. And, I didn't see a ton of stuff. I think we went in May, I think the beginning of May. So it was like kind of early in the year to see a lot of the stuff that I wanted to see. But I saw tons of chuckwallas like everywhere. And chuckwallas are like this lizard that's like maybe, I don't know, like under 2 foot, and they kind of look like an iguana, like a desert iguana, where they don't have a ridge down the back, but they're smooth. They look like a smooth bearded dragon almost. And what they do is they wedge themselves in between rocks, and then they inflate themselves, and their scales kind of help stick them to the rocks, so it's really hard to get them out of the rocks when they see you. Because if they're basking and they see you, they dip into the rocks, inflate themselves, and then you pretty much can't get them out. So the first chuck wall that I saw, I was like, I need to get you out. So I spent like 45 minutes just trying to get it out from the rocks.
Oof.
And then, after seeing 10 or 15 or 20 of them, I was like, okay, I see you. I shine the flashlight in the hole. I'm like, I see you in there. You're cool. And then I moved on to the next thing. And I would see all sorts of banded geckos when I went out there.
That's cool.
We went to Big Bend, and I saw a patch nose snake.
Ooh.
Or sorry, not Big Bend, Horseshoe Bend, which is like this river that comes up and like curls around and makes basically like a big horseshoe. But you could park at the parking area, and then you have to hike for like maybe 5 minutes or so to get out to the area where you actually see the water and see the embankment and like the cliff where everyone's fascinated with and takes pictures with.
Yeah.
And like I was like, okay, cool, I saw it. And then I'm looking at like underneath all the rocks, because as you're walking out there's all these whiptail lizards and all these like little quick moving lizards that are darting all over the place. And I'm just like, man, I know I'm not gonna be able to catch one of those things. They're so fast. Yeah. But I was just like, okay, I see you. I'm gonna. And if I got to an area where I thought I could catch one, I would try to catch one. But like they're just so fast that I couldn't catch any of those whiptail lizards.
Mm-hmm.
But I go out, and everyone's like over at the edge of the cliff, just looking, taking pictures and all that stuff. And I'm walking around like looking for all these other things. I see rabbits and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden I see a snake, like this light tan snake, just right across the sand. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get it. So I'm following it over. It dips underneath this rock, and I got like a little extendo hook, and I shine my light in there, and I see it. I'm like, okay, it's a patch nose snake, not venomous. I can get it out. So I'm using the hook, and I got my hand like right up to the edge of the hole, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I didn't look if there was anything else underneath this rock right now.
Oh.
So I like look again, and I'm like, okay, I don't think I see any rattlesnakes in there. Okay, so I'm using the hook and like pulling the snake, and I get to the snake right to the edge. And as I'm pulling it out, my mom is like, are you sure that's not a venomous snake? And I'm like, yes, I know it's not a venomous snake. It's a patch nose snake. It's cool. We're cool. So I like pull it out, and I'm just like admiring. I'm like, man, this thing's so cool. And like, there's a couple people who are like, what the fuck is that kid doing over there? And they're like looking at me, and they're like, he's got a snake. Okay, I'm gonna go the other way. And so I'm like,
classic reaction,
just taking pictures, like trying to take pictures of it. And my mom's like, are you sure it's not venomous? I'm like, it's not venomous. She's like, okay, I'll hold it and you can take pictures. So I like let her hold it, and she's holding it. I'm taking pictures. I was just like, oh man, this is so awesome. But like, I didn't see any tarantulas when I was out there, so I was super bummed. I probably was just not looking in the right areas, because there's lots of places I went to where there were probably tarantulas, and there's no tarantulas in New England, so I don't have experience looking for tarantulas in the wild. So I probably walked right by them, and so I just probably wasn't looking in the right area. But I did find a big, I don't know, that portion of the country, they call them what, gopher snakes or bull snakes? They probably call them gopher snakes.
I think gophers.
Yeah. So I found a big, like a 4-foot gopher snake, and things like,
oh yeah, dude.
I was just super pissed off. But it was really early in the morning, and I had gone out to this like edge of the this embankment, and there was like a cliff and a dam and everything. And so I'm out there, and all of a sudden I see this gopher snake just right through the rocks, and it's hauling ass. And I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get it before it goes into something. So I like run up to it, and before I could get to it, it saw me and whipped around immediately and starts rattling its tail and like that deep hiss, and it's like all pissed off at me. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't go into the rocks. And so I'm just in there. So I like, pick it up, and I'm like just admiring it. It's all pissed. It's so angry. Yeah. And I'm like, you are so cool. And so like I held it for a minute, took a little bit of video, and then like put it right back down and just like watched it go. And I was like, that is what it's all about.
Pits are awesome, because they will hold their ground.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. And then right near there, I found a desert hairy scorpion, a giant yellow desert hairy scorpion, and it was big. It was like big, like probably 4 inches long, including the tail and everything. So it was like a big scorpion, and I was just like so geeked out. And I had my tweezers ready, and I like scooped it up and put it in a container so I could get a couple pictures of it and put the flashlight on. It was the middle of the day though, so like I was like, this is the worst time to find a scorpion. So I was just like so geeked out about that, and it was just like such a cool experience. And then we went to a different part of the state, and my mom's like, so I used to go out to this area in the morning, and like before I would go to work or when I would get out of work, I would just come out here and just sit and just like watch all the wildlife, because there's like all these different things that you would see there. And so I'm like, well, what did you see? And she's like, I don't know, there's like lizards over here, because my mom likes a lot of reptiles and stuff, but she doesn't know how to ID a lot of them. She, like if I teach her stuff, she'll remember it, but she didn't have that passion like I did. She was just like, oh, they're cool. And it's a cool lizard, and I'll watch it for an hour. So we go out to this spot, and she's like, yeah, I don't know. I'll just like walk around here. And if you walk around for a minute, we'll probably see some stuff. And we walk around for a minute, and I see some like desert lizards. I see some spiny lizards. I see some whiptails and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I see a horned toad.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like geeking out. So I'm like, how am I going to catch this thing? How am I going to catch this thing? And I was like, I don't want it to squirt blood. It would be cool if I saw squirt blood, but I'm not going to try it. Like, I don't want it to do that. I don't want to stress it out. So like, I'm watching it, and it's like watching me, and I'm watching it, and I take a step closer, and it's not bothered at all. It's literally just looking at me. And so I take another step closer. It's cool. I take another step closer, and it like darts real quick, and I'm like, oh fuck no, oh shit, and that one like got away from me, and I like lost it in the brush, and I was like, son of a bitch. And so I'm like freaking out because I'm like, Mom, it was right there, and I didn't even catch it. And she's like, there'll be more, and I'm like, no, that was not like the other lizards. It's not like, but literally, I walked around for another 5 minutes, and I saw probably another 10 of them, and they were like everywhere, and I was like, holy crap. And so after I like caught one and held it and just like got to admire it for a minute, I was just like, man, that's so freaking cool. And I like let it go, and the thing like ran 3 feet and just stopped again and just looked at me like, are you gonna keep harassing me? And I'm like, no, you're cool, man, we're cool.
You're good, dude.
And so I like just watched it, and I keep walking, and then I see another one, and I'm like, I wonder how close I could like actually get to, like, I'm not gonna try and catch it, I just want to see how close I can get to them. Because it's like they had no fear of people at all.
Wow.
Like no fear at all. So I'm recording, and I'm just like sitting there. I'm like probably 6 feet away. And then I take a step closer, a step closer, a step closer. And I'm like within 3 feet of this animal. And I'm like getting down onto my knees because I don't want to like tower over it. And it just like does not care. It's acknowledging them there. It's looking at me. And it's like, what are you doing? And it like turned its body. So it's like kind of facing more sideways to me, like parallel to me, so that it's like looking at me or perpendicular. And I literally like stuck my hand out and like almost touched it. It got to the point where I was like maybe 10 inches away from it before it like ran away. But it didn't even run far. It like ran like 2 feet and then turned around and looked at me again and was like, don't do that. But then like, that was always just like, that was so fascinating to me because like some of the lizards, you could tell their personality was like, nope. And they like, as soon as they saw you, they took off and they just like did not stop until they knew there was no way you were going to be near them. But those guys were just so like, I don't know what they were like.
That's cool.
Smart. They just knew that I wasn't going to hurt him or whatever.
You're like, he doesn't know I shoot blood from my eyes.
You know what I just learned recently? I just learned recently that not all species of horned lizards do that.
Really?
There's only like 6 of the species that actually do that. Some of them do not squirt blood.
That's interesting.
I just learned that recently, like within the last 2 months.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
It's really cool.
That is very cool.
The more you know. The more you know.
The more you know.
But I don't know. It's just, for me, that's the sort of stuff that always just like really gets me. Like I love keeping reptiles in captivity. I love the animals that I get to work with. I mostly work with stuff from Southeast Asia because I can't go to Southeast Asia and see them in the wild. But, you know, getting to go places and actually experience these animals in their wild habitat is always just mind-blowing for me. It always holds my attention.
You know what that freaking reminds me of?
What?
Field herp in Florida. Because I totally blanked on the fact that I did that.
Yeah, because I didn't get to do it. I was like, what do you mean field herping Florida? I didn't get to go field herping in Florida.
Yeah.
When we went to Florida most recently, every minute of our trip was planned with something. So they're like, I think there was like 2 hours where we could just like chill for a minute.
Yeah, and we probably just slept.
Yes, yeah. That's literally it. We slept like 2-3 hours a night, maybe 4 hours a night.
Yeah.
And then the rest of our trip was like slam-packed with stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
But the last time you went to Florida.
The last time, before that trip, I was actually able to get a day in
field herping.
To go field herping. Met up with KJ.
I'm jealous.
And
you guys got to see cool things.
Dude, we did get to see some cool things. We saw a lot of really cool things. And being from New England, I think just about any time you get to see a lizard is a cool time.
Yes, 100%.
Because we don't have any lizards here.
There's no wild lizards in New England.
So getting to see a gopher tortoise
was
pretty freaking sweet. You know, because we have turtles here. We have no tortoises. Yeah. And tortoises are just freaking awesome.
They're
dude.
so cool.
So seeing gopher tortoises in the wild was pretty freaking sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But the pinnacle of that expedition was that eastern diamondback.
Fuck yeah.
I love rattlesnakes.
Mm.
With a pretty big passion. I mean, I can't say I've dedicated a lot of my time to like really study them and stuff, but like anytime I get to be around a rattlesnake, I'm geeked out. Like I love it. So I remember being out with KJ and we're veering off these trails, and he walked a little bit further than I did off this little side journey that we had taken, and we were both about to just turn around and go back. And when he turned around, he was like, "Shit, diamondback!" And we're like, "Huh?" I'm like, "What? Where are you at?" And he's like, "It's right here." And it was still early enough in the day where it was just like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even start to rattle right away. It was just kind of like, really? I'm just trying to bask.
Yeah.
Like, and that was freaking amazing. It was like probably big, probably female.
I hate you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. It was badass because we were like, he was like, "I want to make sure you see an eastern diamondback." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, dude. Like, what are the chances? We're going to see a bunch of coach whips and like all this other stuff." We only saw like 2 coach whips the entire freaking time.
Those are cool, though.
They were badass. They were badass. But damn, like coming up across that, like seeing that in the wild. And it was like the most picturesque version of an eastern diamondback. It was like there was some like palm fronds that were down.
Yes.
There was like all the decaying wood and everything. It was just like perfect.
If you looked in a book about eastern diamondback rattlesnakes,
that's where you see it.
That's where you see it.
and I was like, dude, this kind of takes the cake.
Yes.
And I remember, I think the best part of it was like, I remember messaging Kevin and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be going out field herping, whatever." And he's like, I was like, "Yeah, my buddy's we're gonna try to find some easterns," and he was like, "Yeah, good luck, dude. It's not time, And we found that. I was immediately like,
send him
"I
a
gotta
picture."
send this to him," and he was like, "Oh damn," and I was like, "Yeah,
fuck
boy.
yeah, I'm about that."
So that was cool. I would love to do that again at some point. So KJ, ...
Get on this podcast.
Yeah.
And let's go field herping.
Seriously.
I'm very torn right now because I have a very deep stirring in my soul to go field herping, and I want to go back to Arizona so bad because I didn't see any rattlesnakes while I was in Arizona, and the spots where I was at, I need to see some sort of rattlesnake out there.
Yes.
I really want to see a blacktail rattlesnake.
Yes.
But any rattlesnake. But I really want to do that. And then Florida always is just like, I want to, because when I was a kid, I couldn't go looking for rattlesnakes because my family would be like, "You're 10 years old, you can't do that."
Yeah, exactly.
And so I didn't get a chance to really go in depth field herping looking for that sort of stuff. Like I saw gopher tortoises and stuff. Every time I went out, I would see gopher tortoises when I was down there. Yeah. But I never saw rattlesnakes at all. So that is something for me that always has been the top of the list for stuff that I want to do. So within the next year, you better hold me to this.
Dude, I'll hold you to it because I'll probably go with you.
Yeah. Arizona needs to fucking happen, and probably Florida again.
Yes.
I want you and Kevin to go down to Florida so that you guys can do Gatorland and show Kevin all that cool stuff and have him see Komodos.
Yes, that so needs to happen at some point when this crazy pandemic is over.
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID.
Stop stepping on our field herping time.
Yeah.
Dude, go away.
That's social distancing, right? If I'm in the middle of nowhere looking for rattlesnakes, I'm not near anyone.
That's true, but you have to be around people to get to the point where there's no people. Yeah. So, who knows? Soon. One day.
Soon, really soon. I can't wait to just start field herping around here again.
Yeah. You know what I would honestly love to see?
What?
Is remember when we were leaving Zoo Miami and they were all the freaking agamas?
Yes.
Everywhere. I kind of want to go down there with Kevin and just be like, "Dude, go get it." And watch him
dude,
chase one down. Dude.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the parking lot. I was like, "Oh,
right,
look at
exactly.
It. Look at it."
Exactly.
When we were leaving, I was like, "Can we just take 5 minutes and let me try and catch one of these
things?"
things?
I would have been so about it.
I was so worried we weren't going to make it to the airport in time.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing.
I know.
Such a bummer. Next time we're gonna have to dedicate a whole day just to Zoo Miami.
It's true. Yes, I'm down. I'm so down for that. Hell yeah.
Okay, Jeremy. I think it's about that time.
It is about that time, dude.
So if people are looking to find you, where are they gonna find you?
They can find me on Instagram at BrassmanReptiles and on Twitter at BrassmanRep. How about you?
And if you guys are looking for me on Instagram, it's RobIsCreepingItReal. And on Twitter, it's RobIsCreeping. And make sure that you're following reptile.talk on Instagram, as we're going to be posting pictures to go along with our episodes so you can see who we're talking about, more information, and lots of cool little tidbits to go on with that.
That's right.
Hell yeah. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Boom.